5 things. The UNIDO said 5 things India needs. 5 things. A, clean drinking water for every citizen. Clean drinking water. Even in the remotest village, I'll tell you how to give clean drinking water. You know water supply? Go to the village and tell them, collect the water in a clean vessel, open vessel, cover it with a thin cloth, put it in the hot sun for 2 hours. No germ survives there. The greatest germ killer is the ultraviolet rays from the sun. Even if you have an air-conditioned bedroom in the 5-star place, open that in the morning and let sun's rays come in so that your bedroom gets sterilized. And for saying that sun rays kills every germ, Phil Nielsen got the Nobel Prize in medicine in 1903. I'm not bluffing. I'm telling you the truth. Now, clean drinking water. 2, 3 square meals a day uncontaminated with human and or animal excreta. It's very difficult. 3, economic empowerment of village women. Man earns, he drinks, comes home empty-handed. Woman can sleep empty stomach, but she can't see her own children sleeping empty stomach. Not knowing where your next meal comes from is the greatest risk factor for a heart attack and cancer. Did you know that? If you know, they did a survey of offices in England. The managing director never got a heart attack as much as the peon got. The managing director gets a salary. You know, a study recently showed the minute you get a Nobel Prize, walk that Stockholm, you know, you just walk that stage, you live 2 years extra. But a man who doesn't know when his next meal coming from, he will die of a heart attack. So, please empower the women economically. 3rd, 4th, 1 toilet for every house. Lot of things get managed. 1 toilet for every house. 5, see that girls go to school at least up to the 20 years, because fertility between 16 and 20 is 5 times greater than after 25. If a girl in India can get married after 25, population problem automatically decreases. You don't have to cut nothing. Another thing that you can do is to have a roof on top of those poor people for which right now they have only the starlit sky. This is India's need of health care. I saw beautiful pictures of midday meal. I love it. But that doesn't do the job. The child is made in the mother's womb in the first 3 months of pregnancy, which is called the first trimester. This is the time all organs are made, and if the mother doesn't have nutrition, organs are not made properly. So the child will, if ever it survives and comes out, 50% of them die in the uterus. That's called stillbirth. If they come out at all, they are very small children, and they have a very small heart, very thin arteries, very small pancreas, very small liver. That's all right, because they live at least up to 30 years and then become diabetics. You know, this poor fellow, if he survives 30 years, he goes to Dubai, cleans the road, comes back with some money. There he eats a lot of, meat and things like that, which is very cheap. By the time he comes here and goes for a checkup in Justlock Hospital, he's a diabetic. That doesn't matter. But what worries me is, there's a part of the brain called the hippocampus major, which is necessary for memory, creativity, learning, studying, everything. And this is so small in these children whose mothers didn't have nutrition, that these children, even if you give them 150% reservation, cannot pass SSLC. Because they have no creativity at all. I want you to give midday meal for every pregnant woman in Bombay, poor woman in the slums, right from the day she loses her first menstrual period. Please do that. You will get a generation of brilliant children who, even living in the slums, will one day get a Nobel Prize. If you want more details, I have written a detailed article in the Bhavan's Journal about this, and 2 chief ministers picked up the article and called me. One, of course, in one area, I am the chairman of their health department in Bihar, Gujarat. They have implemented this. Every pregnant woman now gets a midday meal, which is more important than giving a midday meal to a child. I'll tell you a story. You take an antibiotic for your cold or sore throat or something like that. Have you taken that in the past? the first thing you notice the next day is you have no taste in the mouth. Your idli becomes very insipid. Your chicken becomes tasteless. Do you know why? There you need about a few million germs in the mouth to get you the taste. They are your friends. We live in symbiosis. We are dependent. I am dependent on the germ. Germ is dependent on me. Without me, the germ cannot survive. Without the germ, I cannot survive. Now then, what I have done? It's nothing. Mouth is nothing. We have 27 feet of gut, where you have billions of germs which are absolutely necessary for you. You kill them. A few of them you kill. So next day, after taking antibiotics, see the consistency of stool in the morning. Totally different. Some people get constipated, some people get diarrhea. It's totally different because the normal processing cannot go on without the germs. That is not all. I am not worried about that. Your whole immune system's head office. Peter's head office is in Chennai, though he works even in London and Timbuktu, and the other day he was in some other place. The head office of our immune system is in the gut, between the mouth and the anus. And you are knocking off the head office, and your immune system falls each time you take an antibiotic. Can you believe that? Inviting all kinds of diseases, from common cold to cancer. And it will take an ordinary course of time, 2 to 3 weeks for you to regain your appetite after stopping the antibiotic, to get back your original consistency of the stool, and to feel well. So in short, all that we do is the problem. Now why do we run to doctors for every single thing? Yes. A study in Canada showed when 1,000 people become sick in society, one man reaches the tertiary hospital. Do you understand that? And what do we teach students in the college, medical college? I mean, as a teacher in the medical college for about half a century. We teach on that 1% case as 100% representation of society. You understand that? What chest pain I teach in the medical school is a heart attack chest pain only. But what chest pain happens in society is wife's problem chest pain, husband's problem chest pain, money chest pain, headache chest pain, Peter's chest pain, BMX chest pain. Did you understand that? 99.9% of the chest pains occur in the mind, which is in the chest also. And only 0.1% is due to heart attack. But a doctor who goes out to the medical school has this tunnel vision. Anybody has a chest before he says pain angiogram, when he says pain angioplasty, when he says pain twice bypass surgery, when he says pain fourth time you send him to heaven. This is the teaching. That is why I have written a book called What Doctors Don't Get to Study in Medical School. What's that book's name? What Doctors Don't Get to Study in Medical School. If you want to get into the world of medicine and see what all happens there, read that book. But I wouldn't tell you, you buy that book. E is equal to mc squared was what is taught in the school. But no, E is equal to m. This was discovered by a great German physicist who is the present president of the Max Planck Institute, the highest seat of physics learning in the world. I have left India. I'll come back to that. My friend at the... This man's name is Hans Peter Dürr. H-A-N-S. Peter is Peter, our Peter. Peter is everywhere. Dürr, D-U-E-R-R. There's a German spelling.
Peter is like mind.
Peter is like mind, everywhere. Peter is like mind. Peter is like mind. Hans is the present president of the Max Planck Institute. He was a colleague of Albert Einstein. He was a colleague of Werner Heisenberg. He was a colleague of Niels Bohr. He was a colleague of all those great names in physics. But he is now 84, still very healthy, upright, 6 feet 3 inches tall. Can't speak English well. We were lecturing recently in San Diego. He was lecturing on physics. I was lecturing on the wrong science of medicine in San Diego, which is a nice meeting. And Peter was speaking before me. He said, E is equal to m. Now you can read a simple article he has written for all of you in the internet. Write down. Matter is not made up of matter. What's the name of the article?
Matter is not made of matter.
Yes, matter is not made up of matter. Author's name? Hans, H-A-N-S, Peter, P-E-T-R,
Duerr, D-U-E-R-R. Go to Google, write that. He has written an article for you only. Read that. Anyway, now he said E is equal to mc squared is wrong. E is equal to m. And I call it as a duality. What does Peter call it as? A duality. But what he said after that is very interesting. He said, who am I? I am not even a small speck of dust in front of the great Indian seers who thousands of years ago called it as Advaita. And he quotes, that's the interesting part. I was ashamed sitting there on the days with him. He says, Bahirantas Chabhutanam. It is inside and outside of everything. Charam, acharamevacha. It constantly moves but looks immobile. You and I look solid, but there is nothing solid about you. You and I are bundles of jumping leptoquarks. Sukshmavatet avijneyam. It is so subtle that no science, no scope, endoscope, telescope, microscope, nothing of that can see it. Avijneyam, it is beyond science. Very interesting. Durastam, for those who don't know. Cha, aniketa cha. Those you know, it is inside you. Tat, he said. Tat, that. Leptoquark. Beautiful. Fantastic. Who says that? Hans Peter Duerr.